So sum up Trellis in a nutshell. What are you all about?
Sure. So Trellis is an inventory management platform for cannabis operators that are cultivating, extracting, or distributing. So it's a B2B supply chain focused inventory system.
It's phenomenal. So we appreciate you being here, obviously, Pranav. I mean, you're in demand all over the world, so we feel lucky to have you here. If an entrepreneur were to walk in the door right now, really or a wannabe entrepreneur, maybe they went to college, maybe they didn't, they're young, they want to get involved in cannabis, but they don't know how, they want to follow in your footsteps to some degree, what kind of advice would you give them day one?
Yeah.
Say, here's how you get into the cannabis industry, here's what you need to do.
Yeah, so the number one piece of advice I would get is focus on a problem that exists in the industry and come up with the best solution for it. So a lot of entrepreneurs kind of go out to just build a business for the sake of building a business and kind of want to make it big through doing that. But the best businesses are the ones where it's really targeting a specific problem. In our case, regulatory tracking and compliance is a huge hurdle in the industry, and especially in cannabis, it's very robust regulations and requirements, and it's very hard for operators to manage that. So, and even if they can manage it, tying that into their operations is even more difficult. So that's what we really focused on, was identifying how we can build a workflow tool that helps people manage their operations and stay compliant.
That's very true. So you mentioned problems and hurdles, and all industries have them, but the cannabis industry probably has more these days. I mean, what would you say is the single biggest hurdle facing Trellis right now? Out of the million that there are, what's the number one that you and your team are focused on solving at the moment?
Yeah, well, the biggest hurdle for us, or challenges that we're facing, is just capacity. So we're growing very quickly, and to be able to staff up our team and kind of stay aligned with that and continue to drive and deliver the same type of customer service and support while continuing to innovate the product is definitely challenging, but that's also the opportunity in the cannabis industry, right? It's growing very quickly, it's starting from its infancy, so it's folks that can really find a solution or build something that's of value, but then also scale up to be able to continue to drive those results.
Definitely. I mean, do you see technology playing a role in solving some of these problems? And if so, how would you apply technology now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the cannabis industry, it's interesting because there's a lot of parallels to the ag market, like agriculture. And what you see in agriculture is that it's large multinational companies that have grown and largely built their own systems in silos, which we felt didn't allow for innovation to happen in the space. But cannabis is unique in that everyone's startups. It's a kind of maturing market, and it allows third-party software providers like ourselves to see it at an industry level and build a solution, gathering feedback from everyone and building something for the industry. Whereas everyone in like ag really build their own solutions, and that's a big competitive advantage for each individual operator. So there's very little kind of collaboration amongst the industry.
That's well said. So from a regulatory perspective, you've got regulators all over the country, you've got elected officials all over the country, they all want to ride the wave of cannabis. It's very popular right now, and we all know how it helps patients. What sort of advice would you give a regulator on the East Coast or other emerging markets that are not as mature as California and elsewhere? How would you help steer them in the right direction, knowing that they don't necessarily know everything?
Well, just take the words of Sean Paul, legalize it. So that's definitely a big piece of it. We play in several markets, including Canada, 5 states in the U.S., including California, Australia, Jamaica. So we've had a unique opportunity to see regulations at the federal level, state by state, and what kind of issues each of those kind of brings. So, getting a standard regulatory framework across the country is a huge, a step that I think the U.S. needs to kind of work towards, and we've seen that in Canada. And then it's also like identifying what are the reasons behind the industry, right? So there's definitely tax revenue from a government perspective, but then regulations are all around public safety and managing the compliance requirements. So as a regulator, it's really, what is the purpose of these regulations and this industry, and then kind of form the regulations around that. And obviously look at other markets that have done it and learn from their experiences and bring that to your market.
Definitely. So you mentioned Jamaica, you mentioned Canada, of course. Like, are you seeing things internationally that they're doing, like certain countries are doing a really great job of, that America should take a page out of their playbook? Like, are they doing anything in Jamaica that's helping to cut through the red tape?
I don't think specifically in Jamaica. Like, it's actually, I'll give you an anecdotal kind of thing. So here in California, when you harvest your plants, you have to record your weight per plant, right? But it's up to the operator, like, you're recording it. In Jamaica, they have a similar requirement, except you have to call the regulator to come on site when you do your harvest in order for them to weigh each individual plant. And so, implementing regulations like that can be very constraining. And just think about an operator that has acres of plants, and you can't harvest acres of plants in one day. And then you're kind of reliant on the regulator to come and show up on the next day to continue doing your harvest. So those types of things, I would say is an example of something you don't want to do from a regulatory standpoint. But other markets like Australia, for example, it's a very medically focused market. It's all about GMP, good manufacturing practices. So there's a lot of core industry standards from other pharma, medical type of industries that are being applied to cannabis. And I think that's all great. That's kind of, those industries have worked through the kinks and the issues, and they've identified what are the key success factors. And if you can bring that into the cannabis market, all the better, right?
Definitely. So how do you go about marketing Trellis?
We're kind of unique in that we don't do too much marketing. All of our clients have come through inbound. It's usually through word of mouth, referral. The only type of marketing we do is really kind of just organic marketing. We throw a lot of events to help people relate to the brand. I always say it's pretty hard to make inventory management sexy, but Trellis has kind of built that brand that operators can really latch onto and relate with. So it's really just being as organic as possible. And for us, I think it stems from really knowing the plant, knowing the industry, knowing why people are operating and cultivating, and translating that into the product and into the brand, and people can really relate to that. So that's kind of our biggest marketing piece. We obviously do a lot of education too. I just spoke here, did a session on best practices in inventory management. So doing these types of things, it really helps get our brand out, and being aligned with organizations like CWCBE has been really helpful. I think spoken here 2 years now, and it's been a great way to connect with folks in the industry. So yeah.
You've been a great partner of the CWCBE Expo. And you're pulled in every direction, and I'm sure every trade show in the country wants you to come speak. Why are you here right now specifically with this organization as opposed to others? Because you could be spending your time however you want, but you're here now. And what is it about this show that maybe sets it apart from other shows?
Yeah, for sure. I think the focus on B2B was big for us. We're a B2B software provider. A lot of conferences tend to focus almost equally on B2C as B2B. So it's a little diluted for our purposes. But here we can really connect with actual operators that are looking for solutions like ours. So that was definitely big. Also just the geography and being in LA. So we just opened up our LA office this week. So we're pretty thrilled about that. And being able to connect with local conferences and events to connect with the local community is big for us. So, it's a combination of all of that, and the level of professionalism that CWCB brings to the conference market in cannabis has been really refreshing. I've had a great time, participating in the event, educating, great turnout, so, all of the above.
Congrats on the new office, and thank you for educating our guests. Is there anything else you want to say that sort of wraps this up?
No, just check us out. Go to trellisgrows.com, book a demo. We'd love to connect with anyone.